All right, we just spoke to Tom Daschle, and here now to rebut, rebuke, and as necessary repudiate that South Dakota Democrat is our panel of Republican masterminds, along with our colleague Al Hunt of Bloomberg View. They are John Sununu, the former New Hampshire senator, the media consultant Fred Davis, Republican strategist Kim Alfano, and Mitt Romney's former policy advisor Lan He-Chen. Thank you all for joining us. Al, Tom Daschle seemed, as usual, pretty laconic, simple man, plain states, but beneath, it seemed like he had a sense it'd be a bad night for Democrats. What did you pick up on what he said?
He didn't radiate optimism, did he, Mark? I mean, I think that may be an understatement.
Yeah.
Tom Daschle is one of the smartest people in the business of politics, and I think he was leveling with you, and he's anticipating a difficult night for his party.
Good advice for Mitch McConnell, though.
That's true. No, looking ahead, it's very good.
He's got to make a connection with the president.
But I would think, Kim, you think a banner? Are you expecting a banner night for Republicans?
I think it's going to be state by state. It's going to be a great night no matter what. I mean, I'm a Senate half full kind of girl, but I think that it is going to be a good night, but it's not going to be this kind of wave thing. I think it's going to be race by race.
And Fred, what will the message be if it is, let's just say the GOP takes over the Senate, they maybe gain one governorship net, and they win 12 House seats? What's the message that comes out?
Well, the message is obviously, to me, the message is obviously that the country is less liberal than Obama and the Democrats have been.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it'll be interesting because I don't actually think that the president's going to start sitting down with Mitch McConnell.
Oh, no,
things are going to change. I mean, it's just unrealistic
do not
to
like
expect
each other.
Well, not only that, but there's been no evidence that there's any interest on the president's part of coming toward Republicans on these things. I think Republicans will want to get some stuff done, but I don't see the president being the guy to come to.
What we're talking about is,
right.
what do you think the Mitch McConnell-John Boehner reaction is going to be tonight?
Well,
tomorrow?
You're right. They're not going to meet every week. That's not going to happen. But what Mitch McConnell and John Boehner need to do, and it's an opportunity for them to establish some working relationship and working understanding with the president. And the president needs to do the same thing because
or at least show a willingness.
It's an opportunity.
Well, I think that comes down to what they present. I mean, I think that if they can stay away from the crazy bullets for at least a first session, then I think that might be a way to reach out. If they can come out with something.
Crazy bullets from Nancy Pelosi, or they're from Rush Limbaugh? Which crazy bullets are you talking about?
Well, they're from everywhere, aren't they? But I would say from Rush Limbaugh. I'm saying if we can take control and set a forward-thinking agenda that's not too difficult for the White House to swallow, then that's a good way to get started.
But process becomes important. So it's not just a matter of Mitch McConnell saying, here's what's on our agenda, or John Boehner. They have to get on the same page and try to move pieces of legislation forward, if not together in a coordinated way, so they can put something on the president's desk and show they've taken advantage of the opportunity.
Senator, let me ask you this question. I think the idea that Mitch McConnell and John Boehner can get on the same page is not hard to imagine at all. What I find hard to imagine is that Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz can get on the same page. As we've already seen, Ted Cruz has not even pledged his support to Mitch McConnell and is talking about an agenda that has nothing to do with legislation. It has everything to do with investigating the president, repealing Obamacare, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you think that Mitch McConnell will handle what has been a long-term tension between the factions within the Republican Party?
Nothing's going to pass the Senate of significance with 51 votes. That doesn't make Ted Cruz irrelevant, but it makes him no more or less important than a lot of other members of the Senate, Republicans and some Democrats. So once Boehner and McConnell are on the same page, if you're bringing manageable bills to the floor of the Senate, letting them be debated and amended, unlike what Harry Reid did, then the opportunity is there for some bipartisan support to develop. That's how you get things out of the Senate. You don't just bring something to the floor, try to get 51 votes and deny all amendments.
And Lanhey, in your dreams, what would you think might be possible in the next year to get done?
I think some action on immigration.
You do?
I do. I think we may agree on that point. I think some action on immigration. I think maybe something on tax reform, not comprehensive.
Corporate?
Maybe something on corporate, maybe something on this repatriation issue. And then I think something potentially on Obamacare. I think there's agreement on left and right that there are certain elements of Obamacare that are just bad news, whether it's the employer mandate or others. So I think there actually is some possibility of action on some things in 15.
The party wins tonight. Is it a united Republican Party if you have a big night, or are the problems, the kind of divisions we've been talking about, just below the surface?
There's no way it's a united Republican Party. Look at what your cohort said. What is it? It's a lineup for the 2016 presidential race, and you're having everybody trying to distinguish themselves, and that is what's wrong. One of the things that's wrong with our party.
But the new members, they're not I mean, there's no flamethrower in the new group of senators that we're going to get. There's, and I would say...
There's a castrator, but no flamethrower.
She may have held one in war. I'm sure she's held a flamethrower before, but I'm just saying, the rock stars are not rock stars for... You notice nobody's talking about the Tea Party anymore. We have the Libertarians in the races, but we don't have that Tea Party challenge. I think the Republicans have moved past that distinct divide, and we've got some very conservative members that we're going to get tonight, but they're not crazy.
Fred, I'm not sure they moved past that. I'm not sure. Actually, I talked to a couple conservatives the last couple of days who aren't euphoric the way I thought they'd be. They kind of feel that this hasn't been their agenda, that people like Cory Gardner in Colorado have run away from things, and they're kind of angry.
The biggest issue to me is what happens in the next 2 years. Does our side continue to have 508 people running for president, each one of them trying to distinguish themselves? Or does somebody... Last night I made a flip comment about Obama should get a six-pack of beer, and it was a joke. I got more positive emails and notes on that last night. Everybody thinks that's true.
How many of them suggested either Merlot or bourbon instead?
I did, but none of them.
From Republicans who would like to see the president.
Yes.
So they want alcohol involved.
You're like John Huntsman.
They're almost
just want everyone to get along.
John would be surprised to hear that.
I think it'd be weird to see Mitch do that, the perp walk when he leaves the White House in the morning, so I don't know.
It's interesting because there is this division in the party, and a lot of it goes to what the fundamental thesis ought to be for 2016. Is it that the Republican Party needs to do a better job of energizing the same base voters it's always energized, or go out and reach out to new people? And I think that largely animates the division you see in the Senate.
The potential is there, though, as Fred points out, for the Republican candidates for president to be as big an impediment to John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, or Congress getting things done as conservative Republicans were, say, 2 years ago or 3 years ago for John Boehner.
John, will you announce tonight that you are one of those?
In the short term.
I tell people I would have to get divorced first because my wife is a very normal person. She would not tolerate that kind of insanity.
I will second that.
Ever.
Your wife is a very normal person.
In the short term, Boehner and McConnell become bigger figures in the short term, at least, than they've been. Spotlight goes to them. Do either of them have the capacity to do something I've rarely or ever seen them done, to kind of step out and now enunciate what the party stands for, to bring the party together, expand the public image in a positive way?
Well, look, the challenge is it has always been difficult for a member of leadership, a member of Congress to do that, especially in a presidential year. So when Republicans were trying to take control back in 92, 93, 94, a little bit easier for Newt Gingrich to sort of rally the Republicans around the contract with America. Much more difficult, though, in a presidential year, much more difficult in this Congress, given that we've got a Democratic
But, John, Howard Baker and Bob Dole, to an extent, did it. Can Mitch McConnell rise to that level?
They didn't. What they provided was very effective leadership, legislative leadership in Congress, not necessarily the kind of leadership it takes to form a national agenda.
Thank you. Thanks to the four of you. We'll be right back in just a minute.